Hello and welcome to Self Talk. I'm Rachel Astarte. Today, my guest is E.A. Csolkovits. He is the founder and patriarch of Givers University, and he's also the author of the Give to Be Great series of courses and books. E.A., welcome to
Thank
Self
you so
Talk.
much, Rachel. Thank you for having me on your great podcast.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, a lot to cover. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Well, I live in Michigan now, and I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area.
Mhm.
And my father was a milkman, and back then milk was in glass gallons,
Yeah.
and outside every house was the milkman box. That. And the amazing thing, Rachel, as I look back, uh, every one of the milkman boxes outside someone's house, they all had money in it, and not one time did anyone ever touch it. No one touched it. That was milkman money. You just didn't touch it.
Sacred.
Yeah, I know. Different times, right?
Yeah.
And my father had his own, one truck. It was for Twin Oaks Dairy out of Chicagoland area, and he was a delivery man. Had his own delivery truck, and so we'd get up at 3 in the morning when I helped him and go chop up big blocks of ice and put it on top of the milk because the delivery trucks that went in the neighborhoods weren't refrigerated, only the big
Mm.
18 wheelers back then, right? So
Yeah.
you had to keep the milk chilled, and so we chopped up 6 foot blocks of ice down into smaller pieces and put them on the milk, and it was great. I had very favorable, and happy thoughts about that experience. At 16, I became a janitor, and I had two profound events happen that really shaped, ultimately, Givers University coming about. Going all the way back to when I was 16. At 16 years old, I was able to be bonded and I worked for a janitorial service at that point. Got a job as a janitorial service as a janitor. Didn't mind doing that because business was always picking up. What? Anyway, so here I was as a janitor, 16, and I was able to be bonded, which means I could be insured, and I could go in expensive businesses if my buffer hit something. Insurance company would pay for it, right? That
Okay.
also allowed me to be in really expensive homes as well. And one of the homes I cleaned every single Wednesday. When I say her name, it won't mean anything to your listeners until I make the movie reference. There was a movie out a few years back. It'll be out for years to come for sure because actually it's quite a good view. And the name of the movie is called The Founder. It's about McDonald's, and Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc.
Okay.
And actually, if you haven't seen it, it's a good view.
Okay.
At the beginning of the movie, it says this is based on a true story. That's true. It's based on a true story. It's not the true story. It's just based on it, right?
Right.
But there are a lot of events that did take place that are nodded to in the movie. And Ray Kroc, by the way, was not the way. I lived that whole phenomenon. I was there. I lived at where the world headquarters of McDonald's was in the greater Oak Brook
Wow.
area. So in my lifetime, I witnessed the whole thing, right? Ray was not the way he's portrayed in the movie. That's just Hollywood spin, making an evil guy, or a corporate guy kind of thing. He wasn't that way. Anyway, that being said, Michael Keaton, who plays Ray Kroc, talks to a lady outside his office during the entire movie, right? That lady, her name is June Martino. That lady is the lady whose house I cleaned every Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
And so when I met her, she already had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. So she was an icon of the area. Everyone knew who June Martino was. And she was an amazing woman. And so I was in her house every Wednesday. She knew who I was. Very nice, by the way, which was quite a curiosity for me because
Mm.
for some reason I thought in order to be successful, and I don't know where it came from, Rachel, but I thought you had to be a jerk or an idiot or take advantage
Right.
of people.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
was just the opposite. I mean, so approachable and so nice. In fact, if I was buffing the floor and looking down and she walked through, she would say hi even if I hadn't even looked up. I mean, just really nice, right?
Mm.
So one day she told me the whole McDonald's story. I asked her, and she took me in the kitchen, told me the entire story, which basically chronicles the movie, which is extraordinary. And she told me about how Ray had an impact on her,
Mm.
as like a mentor. I didn't know what a mentor was, back then. I, didn't even know how to spell it. I think I spent my hooked on phonics money on something else. And that's a reference for people going
No,
back a
like
few
my
years.
age. Like I
Yeah,
know what hooked on
if
phonics. That's why
if
I
you know what
laughed.
hooked on phonics
I
was,
love
it's
it.
a
Yeah.
reference.
Okay.
So so I didn't know what a mentor was, but I remember thinking, Rachel, if I could just find a Ray Kroc.
Mm.
And I just threw it out there, just threw
Yeah.
it
There
in
you
the Never
go.
Never Land. I said, where would my Ray Kroc be? It certainly didn't work out too bad for her. I'm cleaning her $1 million mansion. She had a full-time maid and butler, and I'm doing like the pool and buffing the floors and more of the heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, if I could just find a Ray Kroc, someone that could bring me under their wing. I don't even know what I don't know. The only thing I know is that I don't know whatever it is. That's all it is. I don't even know what it is I don't know. And I
Right.
thought, if I could find this person, it wasn't about 2 or 3 months later, I got a phone call at the same janitorial service. My boss sends me over to show carpeting to this guy that's opening a diamond store in Chicago. He's from Detroit. Well, that man and I hit it off, and he offered me a job, and I started working for him, and he became the father I never had, even though I had a father that I loved. And I became the son he never had, even though he had a son.
Mm.
And so he became my mentor, and I was so blessed to have him in my life. And then at 19 years old, I said, Sam, his name was Sam Robbins. I said, Sam, will you teach me everything? Just all of it, all of it. I mean, he was so wealthy and so happy, and just all the things I wanted to have in my life. So I said, at 19, I said, Sam, will you teach it all to me? And he said, okay, I will, but I want one thing from you. When the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many people as you can everything I teach you.
Mm.
And so at 19 years old, I made a vow. I made an oath to my mentor that today has manifest as what we call Givers University. And that's how it came about.
Wow. What a beautiful story. What a wonderful story. I mean, just that could be a movie in itself. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's beautiful. So and I think mentorship is also such an important thing that we often overlook. Especially as in our society, as we get older, we seem to feel like we're not as useful in this culture, and it's such a beautiful thing to step into an age of wisdom and understand that as we get older, it's a beautiful gift to be able to mentor someone else, or in your case, many people. Yeah.
For
So
sure.
yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
No, I was going to say that, and because of that, Rachel, I've become, because of what my mentor blessed me with informationally, I became a huge advocate for mentoring. And in my world, if you don't have a mentor, I say that the word I use is, it's naive,
Mm.
because when you have a mentor, it's a different kind of relationship. A coach is a great thing. It's great to have coaches. A coach can teach you a skill that you may need at any one snapshot in time. A mentor is much more personal. It's a more confidential, a much more intimate relationship. Why we think the things we do, not only the things we think, but why are we thinking that way? And much more personal, hands-on mental approach, and helping all aspects of our life. And that's what my mentor did. I mean, so I've
Mhm.
become a huge advocate. And I share with people, when you're seeking, if you don't have a mentor, get one. And when you seek them, make sure you ask one question. What have you done?
Mm.
Don't be afraid to ask that question, because I've met in my life literally thousands of educated idiots. And I say that jokingly, because an educated idiot is someone that's, they've read the books, they've learned all the information, and they can spew it back at you, but they've never done it themselves. And
Sure.
and there's when someone has done it themselves,
Yeah.
they bring with them automatically all the things that didn't work, and that's where the wisdom is.
Yes.
That's where the educated idiot, when you hire them, you're paying for their education because they haven't done it yet. So you might just, why don't you say, I'll pay for you to go to school, because that's what you're doing. But so when seeking a mentor, don't be afraid to say, what have you done?
Mhm.
And I think one of the reasons June Martino, going back to the whole McDonald's thing, why she shared with me what she did was, when I asked about McDonald's and what happened, I think she sensed I was not asking because I wanted to schmooze up to June Martino, who was this icon. I really wanted to know what happened. What happened with McDonald's, and I think she sensed it,
Yeah.
and because of that, I mean, she literally set aside an entire day and brought me in the kitchen and had her maid and butlers bring us food so she could keep telling me a story. So I share that because real mentors will know the difference.
Mhm.
They will sense why you're asking. They've been around the corner enough times. They have enough scars on their shins. They know. Intuitively, they know. And when you ask from a point of sincerity and they know the difference, it's amazing how really prosperous people will make the time to help you because they know how important that is for a person who sincerely wants to know.
I think, thank you for pointing that out, because I think that's such an important point, the sincerity, the point of sincerity, because a lot of people can be like, yeah, how'd you get rich? How'd you make,
Yeah, yeah.
that's, but that's very different from wanting to be a student of this person, and there is a humility attached to that. And I think that might have been what June picked up on, was that you were genuinely, and I think that also probably played into your being able to manifest your actual mentor, because of you were ready. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So there you go. So let's talk a little bit about Givers University. What is it?
Right. Well, we teach something, and I think, as I mentioned earlier off the air, this is like my 196th, 197th that I've looked interview since last April, and not one host has said, "I know someone else teaching this." We teach something that is a skill that's not being taught anywhere else. And at first, to lay the groundwork, I want to say to your listeners, we love everybody. I say it again, we love everybody, and we teach a skill of how to separate the person who we love from their deeds which we may not love. And by watching an observation skill that we teach them, this is a skill of observation and awareness. Watch what they're doing, because people know how to tickle your ears with what they say. Watch what they're doing. And as we say in Givers University, your talk talks and your walk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. The deeds, the things we do. So we teach people, even by checklists. We actually give them checklists. Here's the things to watch them doing. Use it as a checklist, and it'll help you discern, based on what I'm seeing them do, should I bring them closer into my life and become a part of my giver community? Or because of what I'm seeing them do, should I begin to respectfully, not rude or nasty, respectfully distance myself, because if I bring them closer, they're going to make me collateral damage. Right. And I ask your listeners, think about the fires you stomp out every day. Think about when your stress level goes up. Those things have something in common. The commonality is there's a name attached to them. And if we can learn the skill of discernment on who we should have closer to us, it doesn't mean we don't love them and we don't label people. When I say giver, we're identifying giver deeds, not the person. We're not labeling a person. We're identifying the deeds. When we say taker, it's not like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, taker, we're not doing that. We're labeling the deeds of the person, not the person themselves. So we teach people the skill set of how to discern in your relationships, so your productivity goes up, your happiness quotient goes up, because we're not doing all these other things, because no one taught us, what should I be looking for? It's like a few interviews ago, this guy said, wow, this is really great. I love this Givers Taker stuff. And I read this book, and this book says I should have 5 good people around me. And I said, you're right. You should have 5 good people around you. One question. Which 5? Right. And all of a sudden he's staring at me with this blank look. And I said, you see my point? No one's teaching us which 5. I said, so when we learn the art and the skill of discerning on who we should have close to us and who we shouldn't, these people have a profound impact on our business, socially, our family, and no one's teaching how do you discern, who. You're a self-improvement person. I'm positive of that. I mean, I'm a self-improvement geek. I'm sure many of your listeners are. Yeah. But Rachel, no one's teaching. What about if the other guy's doing it wrong? What should I do about that? And it would be prudent to maybe distance myself, because they're going to make my life really complex, and I'm going to be stomping out fires if I pull them in closer. Maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't do that. Yeah. So we teach that skill through these courses called Give to Be Great. That's the series name, Give to Be Great, that you can be great by being a giver. You don't have to be a taker to be great.
Beautiful. And you've brought that up a couple of times. How might you define a giver versus a taker?
That's a great question. And it's actually not like a word distinction, if you will. It's a cumulative distinction
Mm-hmm.
because, again, from our standpoint, it's a observation of what they're doing, what we call the deeds. We have a checklist that's called the 25 Do's. And it's a great checklist. We give it for free. We want people to have it. And actually, you can actually watch people doing things, and you start on the left side making check marks, the right side make check, and at the bottom total it, and you're already pointed in the right direction based on their deeds, not judging them as a person, but observing what they're doing. Are they doing the things that a giver would be doing versus the taker part? And then from that, then we can make a decision on how close we want to have them in our life. We even have HR people who even are doing this privately with themselves and watching, what other people as a part of their hiring process to say, because, people can learn how to do a good resume. They can hire professional resume writers, and all they're doing is tickling your ears. That's not, the person on the resume is not the person you're going to be managing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So if you could give us a couple of examples of what givers do.
For sure. One of them would be a giver is willing to delay gratification for the end result. Where a taker will say, pay me now, give me now, me first. Everything is me first and me only oriented with a taker. Whereas a giver will be the first one to step forward. And they will say, I'll do that. They'll be the first one to volunteer. And they're willing to delay the benefit that they will receive, where a taker is instant gratification the whole time. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And the other part, one of the other ones, of course, is to be on self-growth. A giver will always be bettering their best. And a taker will be what we call a sophomore. I've been around. I've read 2 books on self-improvement, and I know they're all the same. All the information's the same. And so there's a distinction in what they do from, are they learning? I can share with you, learning from my mentor. I only had one superpower. I say, what's your superpower? And I said, I don't really know it. And then one day I thought about it, and I thought it really was simple. I had the ability to say, I don't know about that. I'd love to learn. Would you teach me? And my mentor said, he said, in an age, and we're in that right now, where everyone is so concerned about being preeminent and everyone wants to be the smartest person in the room. My mentor said, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. You're not going to learn nothing there. Go find a room where you can learn something, right?
Beautiful, yeah.
So to be able to learn and to be able to constantly be on that, learning kind of thing, and to humble ourselves down and say, I don't know about that. I'd love to learn. Could you teach me? Yeah. And then people they look at us totally different because they're saying, well, he's not just sitting there trying to impress me with all the, he really genuinely wants to learn. And that's been a real blessing to have learned that from my mentor, how important that was.
Yeah. And the whole idea of being able to ask for help, it really is a superpower because so many people are afraid of being vulnerable in that way. I want to look like the smartest person in the room. And if I ask for help or ask for clarification, it makes me maybe look like I'm not very smart. And so that's a beautiful thing. I work with patients for months for them to be able to learn how to ask for help. So if you could explain to us what a giver's community is. You talk a lot about communities in your work.
Yeah, for sure. And as a foundation for that, my mentor said to me, he said, when you're a giver, people will take advantage of you. Expect it. Mm-hmm. He said, but no one knows the second half of the sentence. That's only the first half. He said, let me give you the whole sentence. When you're a giver, people will take advantage of you, but you're never diminished when they do. They are diminished when they do. Mm-hmm. He said, there's the distinction no one ever knows, and they don't know the second part of the sentence. He said, so when you're a giver, people will take advantage of you, but you're never diminished. They are. They're diminished when they do it. Right. And he said, and watch how the giver scale of life constantly writes itself. So we have been, in this second round, I guess, of interviews, the second 100, if you will, we've been working on helping people learn how to build a community. I know our time is very short here, so I'm just going to share, if
Yeah,
I can,
please.
with people where to go to get the information absolutely free.
Yes.
Go to our YouTube channel. It's Givers University, all one word, no spaces. It's plural, Givers University. Go to YouTube, just put Givers University in. The top playlist is How to Form Your Own Giver Community. It's 21 2-minute clips. And each one of those 2-minute clips, the first one is, what's the difference between a giver community and a taker community? How do I identify them, right? Then the next one is, and starts to, how do you, the ingredients of what a giver community should have. Then it gets into how to form a community. There's 7 primary steps of forming your own community around you. Then the last 4 episodes, which are all 2-minute clips, are the agenda. What do you do once your community is set up? What do you cover? What do you do? What should the agenda be, and why should you have it that way? So we literally, it's 21 2-minute clips, absolutely free. Walk through it step by step and share it with others, because how we build those people around us and discern and have those people around us is so critical, with businesses opening and closing faster than ever before, products being antiquated overnight by new products. When it's all done, what do we have left but our relationships? And no one's teaching us, how do you discern which ones?
Right.
So go to that playlist. That's the best place. Also, you can go to our website, sign up for our newsletter. It's absolutely free. Learn it there too.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, and one of the questions was, how do we get in touch with you? But you've pointed that out, and so I want to make sure that everyone knows. I will have all of these links in the show notes, so that people will be able to actively click on those and get more information from you. As we close out, what is some final advice you would like to share with our listeners?
My mentor talked me into, over 4 decades ago, and I can say that because recently I just had the 45th anniversary of my 21st birthday. And so,
Wait a minute.
Yeah, carry the 3. Let's see, you got to carry the 3, and then you put another, yeah, and that equals. So he talked me into saying something to myself every day. And I love your podcast, because he shared with me, he said, you know, you have 35 conversations with yourself every minute in your own head. He said that comes out to be 1,250,000 little quiet conversations you will have with yourself in your own head every year. 1,250,000 conversations. No one can say those conversations don't have impact.
That's right.
He said, so let me give you some things you can add into those conversations you have in your own. He's talking to me. You can have in your own little head. He said, here it is. He said, these 3 phrases, begin to say these 3 phrases to yourself every day. He talked me into it, and I've said this to myself multiple times every day for over 4 decades. And as fortunes came and went and came and went and came and went, as I got tackled 1,000 times and stood up and started running again, all those things, these 3 phrases helped me. I share them with your listeners, and I hope they help them, and they begin to say them as well. The 3 phrases are as follows: I will never give up, I will keep rising up, and I will always overcome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm not going to say another thing. Then we're just going to let those resonate in the air. EA, thank you so much for being on Self Talk.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for having me.
Hi, this is Rachel, the host of Self Talk with Rachel Astarte, also known as the best podcast you've never heard. Well, let's see if we can change that. If you would take a moment, please, to hit the subscribe button, and maybe even that little bell next to it that lets you know when we release a new episode, which is every other week. Thank you so much.